Thank you, Evelyn. Well read. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Glad you're here. I am Dambara. Had to think for a minute. And this is Vajra. And this is Pavani, who's our third celebrant today. So we're really, really happy you're here. Happy for a lot of reasons. One of them is, as we said, it's Lahiri Mahashaya's birthday. And often that kind of goes by on our calendar, and we have so many other things going on, we don't really get a chance to have a special evening in the midst of the other activities for him. And 4 days ago was his Mahasamadhi celebration or anniversary. And that's the date that a great master leaves their body. So, he's within that period. So it's kind of nice to just really tune into him within this period of time. Since it fell on a Sunday, we thought we'd just make it a point of enjoying Lahiri's vibration a little bit more than we might usually. But first I'll talk a little bit about the reading today, and then we'll kind of segue over into that. Maybe we'll tie them together. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. What we just heard is not only the beauty of this path, but also of every devotee's path. And especially in these times. I don't mean these times like in history right now specifically, but I mean this period of how the planet is getting more and more aware of spiritual truths. I will tie this in with Lahiri, actually, in a minute. It may not seem like we're tuning in as a planet to spiritual truths in general right now, just reading headlines and such, but actually there is more, and I see Vyasa, and he can stand up and give you a very, very wonderful, long series of classes on this subject, the yugas. But basically, in a nutshell, it has to do with the fact that there are cycles on the planet, so the great masters have told us, where at some times the planet is in periods of less energy input, and consciousness on the planet is a little bit dimmer than at other times. And then at other times, and I'm doing this because it kind of goes secularly, just like the seasons, at other times there is more energy coming towards the planet, and people in general are more aware, more conscious. So we're in a period right now that's on the upswing, thankfully, but it's kind of on the upswing coming from the bottom that we're not that far away from. So one way of putting it is that, as Jyotish, the spiritual director of Ananda Worldwide, said that if the cycle of the planet's maturity or enlightenment as a whole is thought of as a human lifetime of 80 years, say, we're about 10 years old right now. So that gives us a little perspective, a little humility, that we really kind of think we know everything there is to know. I remember when I was 17, I thought I knew everything there was to know. And then I got to be older, and I was 33, and, I thought, okay, now, I don't know if you've ever done comparisons like this, but I thought, all right, Jesus was 33. Look at all that he did, and, I'm 33, and it's like I'm not that much different than 17. In fact, I know how much I don't know now, and it's kind of gone on like that. But at least we know how much we don't know. So, what was my point? And I know I had one. Yeah, so where we are now is, as a planet, we are kind of thinking of ourselves. We're well-meaning, we're sincere, but we're mostly thinking of ourselves and kind of taking what we want. And there are people who, like good parents, are a little bit more mature and are saying, okay, we really should think of others. We really should live a life that gives to others instead of grabbing for ourselves. But planetarily, it's kind of an effort to get that message out. So I'm so delighted because I will tie this in with Lahiri. So from time to time, there are great masters that come to this planet and remind us of where we are in this whole thing and really kind of give us the message that we need right now. At the bottom of that cycle was where Jesus came. And he came for a time when things were pretty dark and they were getting worse. And so, what happened to him when he was totally sincere and gave this message of love and peace, and they nailed him to a cross on a highway. And that was kind of where the consciousness was at that time. So we're upswinging from that. We're not that bad where things are that dark. Dark Kali Yuga is what that was called, and Kali literally means dark. So that was the dark ages. We're in that second period of 4 cycles known as Dwapara, the second era. And so we're aware more of subtleties. The things aren't just black and white like in our reading, that there's subtle energies happening. There's inspirations that come. We can learn from others, from spiritual teachers. And so this is a time when great masters have come, especially because we're here in America, and not only that, we're here in Portland in America. This is a time when our souls have said, there's something more. I really want to know what it is. I need a teacher. And hearing that, great masters in places like India, for example, they are inspired by God to go answer that call. Just like a good parent. The child says, help me. I want to learn. The masters come and they show us what we're looking for. So in 1990, Yoga Journal had a cover. It was their 15th anniversary. And the cover said, the first 100 years, said Yoga in America, the first 100 years. Now that's a great title of a magazine. Yoga in America, the first 100 years. What do you think? Just to see if you think the way I do. What do you think when you see a title like that? The first 100 years. Where did it start? That's what I thought. How do you figure 100 years, So the way they figured it was that when teachers from India, such as Vivekananda and others, came, 1893 was the first that those came, Vivekananda, and delivered a great talk at the World Conference there and kind of really woke everybody up with what India had to offer. But the interesting thing to me, since 1990, I was newish with Ananda. I've been there, 13 years. But you know how it is sometimes when you read the autobiography of a yogi and you're just on fire with it and you just want to go share it with everybody, but you're smarter if you don't, because not everybody, is kind of ready for that necessarily. Some are, some aren't. But you don't want to be an evangelist that just kind of, talks about stuff that the people actually may not be interested in. Well, I really was interested. So it was kind of fun for me that a popular magazine like Yoga Journal would have, for the introduction of that article, the first several paragraphs started actually in 1861. And they told the story of how yoga came to America, but it really began in 1861. Okay, autobiography of a yogi trivia quiz. Actually not trivia, the opposite of trivia. What happened in 1861? Anybody know? Lahiri met Babaji in 1861. So how many people have read the autobiography of a yogi? Sorry not to be, excluding of anybody that hasn't, but in that is just Yogananda just tells this wonderful story of how these teachings that we're here today for. I mean, this wouldn't be here if it weren't for what happened in 1861. And the way that reads in the autobiography is just so inspiring. But we have good news in that last year, a friend at Ananda Village, Naba Cosley, who enjoys doing playwright kind of things and is a fun soul, he wrote a series of vignettes based on the teachings that we read in the autobiography of a yogi that dramatize a little bit the sequence of events that began in 1861. And guess what? Some friends who are here right now are going to join me in presenting that little vignette for you, so I'd like to invite you to come up.